Hello and welcome to this week's episode of My CP Does Not Define Me, where we focus less on the dis and more on the ability of what we can do. Join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, live on the Disability Global Broadcast and Facebook Live. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Hello, party people of Facebook, YouTube, and StreamYard, and Instagram, and everywhere in the entire multiplistic universe, if that's the proper word. It is time for episode 101 of My CP Does Not Define Me. Yes, I am your host, D to the J, with the Rollaway, as I have been for the past 100 episodes. And yet we are here again on Wednesday, July 20th, as another hot month rolls by and we stick to our chairs like plastic to fabric. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are alive and well. I'm here with my guest for part two. I believe this is part two now with Tony, our second interview. We brought Tony in. Tony, Wheelchair Frogger, Waterhouse Leal. He's got so many names.
Right, I do have so many names.
Welcome, Tony. How are you? Thank you for being on the show today.
I'm doing well, DJ. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate that.
Oh, you are quite welcome. All right, so as I ask our first question always, and as you guys come in, we're broadcasting live on the Disability Global Broadcast. We're broadcasting live on StreamYard, Facebook, YouTube, and the Three Amigos like page because I had the initiative to expand StreamYard and pay money for something else to get bigger. And that's what we're trying to do, get the show bigger audience. Bigger. All right, so for those of us that don't know, Tony, tell us a little bit about yourself and what's new now. Kind of what's going on with you, what you'd like to share, and we can go from there.
Well, I guess I'll kind of keep it short. I guess I'm a disability advocate, with cerebral palsy, and so I've been in a chair my whole life. But for the most part, I just live life and I work, as an advocate to make sure that other people have the accessibility that they need in and around town and to live the life they want. I mean, that's the most important part for me. So I guess in a nutshell, that's me. And you've read my bio, so it can be pretty lengthy.
Yeah, I remember when we asked Tony to send us a bio, and I'm looking through going, am I going to paste all this? Because, he had his likes, his dislikes, his favorite color, his chair miles per hour. We were like, all right, we can shorten this a little bit. But no, you have great spontaneity. You do great things for the community. Just to kind of refresh a little bit, the last time we talked, you had just moved into a new house. You were getting things going, and that's working well for you now. You've got your stuff kind of where you need it to be. How's the home life? How's the house going?
The house going is well. The home life is good. I'm learning a lot of things about, just general house maintenance and kind of, going to Home Depot and doing my research and that kind of thing. Sort of, I'm learning how to become a successful homeowner and maintain my house. I've been dealing with a lot of weeds and stuff, trying to, get that stuff taken care of, take care of the yard. And I'm trying to figure out ways right now of basically how to make my yard more wheelchair accessible, wheelchair friendly. So using some turf and some of that rubber playground turf. So I'm getting quotes on that, trying to kind of like modify the outside so that it's accessible to me. Thankfully, my neighbors have been really great. My neighbors already rescued me once because I got stuck in the mud. So lesson learned there, don't get stuck in the mud.
And now we have a winch on the chair and just tie it to a tree and pull yourself out. There you go.
But it's definitely been a unique experience for me. Just kind of rolling around Home Depot and rolling home with a Home Depot bucket filled with stuff that I need for my house. Mm-hmm. And like I said, always playing Wheelchair Frogger, and I get crazy looks, but it's fine because I think the visibility is important. It's important for my neighbors to know that, hey, I'm okay and I can handle myself. My neighbors have sort of like, are you okay? Can we help you with anything? And you know what? I've learned one of the things that's unique is rolling down my wheelchair ramp with a 55-gallon bag of trash. can be quite an adventure sometimes if you don't handle that properly. So I've learned some techniques on how to throw it over the edge and then just go pick it up. So you live and learn.
Now you said you were working with, I guess, the blacktop in your yard to get it. Are you going to blacktop the whole yard? Or are you just doing parts of it? What are you?
I want the backyard to be. I mean, it's a small city lot, so the backyard can be pretty much primarily covered. But my goal is to, I guess, have concrete along the edges with some flower beds, and then in the middle have that rubber turf so that I can. So if I fall or whatever, it's soft, and I can have a space where I can hang out with friends. But the front yard will be, I guess, just a normal front yard, and the backyard will be more sort of the wheelchair inclusive space where I can have minimal grass and just a way for me to roll around. So I'm still researching different ways to cover the yard.
Mm-hmm. The cool part about that, though, it's your house. You can do what you want.
Exactly.
I mean, whenever I move into the house, the two things I said I was going to do, one was blacktop the front yard, and two was blacktop the backyard, because I'm either going to play wheelchair football in the front yard or hockey in the backyard, or vice versa, wheelchair football in the backyard and hockey in the front yard. Now, I understand that people may roll by and go, he doesn't have a yard. It's blacktop. It's not aesthetically pleasing to the eye.
Well, here's the thing. You can be very creative with gardening and flowers and flower beds. I've seen it downtown Kansas City. They have a good example of that at one of the high schools that was redone as a co-working space. And so on 39th Street, and it's called Plex Pod, and they have these flower pods. But everything is about being creative and making it look nice. I mean, for me, I participate in wheelchair CrossFit, and what I want is a space in my backyard where I can continue to work on my wheelchair CrossFit and maybe have a tetherball in the backyard. Those of us that know who that is or what that is, it's something that I enjoyed as a kid, playing that all the time, right?
Oh, I enjoyed it until it snapped back and hit me in the face.
Right. That's the challenge, making sure you don't break your glasses.
Then I cussed at it for 3 hours. Yeah. The only thing about with flower beds and yard maintenance, the more you have in your yard, the more you have to take care of.
That's true.
And the thing I think about it, I look at my house, and this was something that I got from you last episode that we did. I could give two rats about how aesthetically pleasing my house looks. Is it convenient for me?
Yeah, and I'm still working on it. You see the cabinets behind me, right?
Mm-hmm,
you see them, and so they're very high for me still, and even some of them have been lowered a little bit, but they're still pretty high. And so everything is an educational experience for me. I try to teach as I go along and go through my life. I try to sort of use it as an opportunity to help people learn how to best help us, or assist us in achieving our goals. Not necessarily doing it for us, but helping us get there. Like we should help, maybe our friends and family do the same thing. Many of us are very talented and we have skills that other people don't have. But so what we really need to do is partner together and say, hey, how do we reach these goals that we're trying to achieve? And that's,
to me, and this is something that you brought up last time too, and I like that. If the cabinets are too high, I don't care if it's ADA compliant or not. I've got to be able to use the space that I've got, or it's just going to sit there and collect dust. And I'm throwing my glasses up there, hoping they don't blink, going, I got one. Crap.
Right.
I got crap.
I sometimes look at the cabinets and I go, it looks like I kind of need a fishing pole and to grab some stuff from the upper cabinets, But
what are we fishing for today, Bill? A drinking glass?
Yeah, right, exactly. And the DME came over to my house and we were discussing a new wheelchair for me. It's almost that time. And they said, well, we can get you a chair that raises up and you can come up to your cabinets. But my thought process along that was, well, but that's going to cost me a lot more and then more maintenance with the chair. And so I'm still trying to decide, That's
one of the things that, and the more that you get, the more technology that you have, the more it has a chance to break down. But I will say, having that chair that raises is not only a godsend for the cabinets, but it's a godsend for other things too. Because like one of the dreams that I have, and we were kind of talking about this way back, is I want a 6 bedroom house, and I want a 6 bedroom house because I want 3 upstairs and 3 downstairs. And I told the homeowner that the person that I'm talking with, I don't want the elevator that I have to go into. No, because that breaks down. A ramp doesn't break down. I want a ramp in the house that goes from level 1 to level 2. That way, when the power goes out and the elevator doesn't work, I can still get to my
Yep.
upstairs and where I need
And
to go.
and
It's those things that you have to think about to be able to live life and to achieve your life to your best. So
you
the question you want to ask yourself with the raising of the chair is, what can I use it for aside from just, I guess, practicality would be the right word? Because I mean, I think it would help you in a lot of ways, not only
right.
with cabinets, but then you'd be taller than other people. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, you
but
bring up an excellent point. Even with the accessibility to a separate floor, I have that issue right now in my house where I can't access my basement, and I have a full basement on the bottom that I can't access and whatnot. And so I've been doing research in that space as well. The elevators are very costly, and so far the quotes that I've gotten, the least amount of a quote that I've gotten has been about $30,000. And so
Mhm.
I'm thinking, okay, how do I come up with $30,000 for a lift? And
Exactly.
I'm doing research to find out, is it cheaper for me to have them make a walkout basement and, like you said, put a ramp going down into the basement and things. But we have to be real careful with water and those things. When it rains or it snows and water.
That's the other thing with the inside ramp. If you think about this, you got an outside ramp, you got to deal with snow, sleet, hail, water, wood chippage, wood rottage. I don't care if you treat that with Thompson's water seal. That's not an ad plug. I don't care if you treat it with Thompson's water seal. If you treat it to the best and you stain it and you do this and that, when you get a ramp built in your house, that's going to make it easier because it's not going to be affected by outside weather. If it's
Correct.
inside the house, it's a ramp. Now the only thing that can happen is it can wear down over time. But we're talking 20 to 30 years versus an elevator, which may last 5 or 10, because it's mechanical, and mechanical things don't. I mean, they don't even make washers and dryers like they used to now.
No, they break down. Things break down constantly. So one of the things I've learned as a homeowner recently is, making sure that I have a budget for things that just happen. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and and so there I am. All of a sudden, like Monday, I wasn't planning on going to Home Depot, but something broke, and I'm like, okay, I've got to go to Home Depot and go pick this up. And those things that, as a person, it's a wheelchair user, it's something that I've never really dealt with or planned for. So I'm still in my independent living journey, learning how to best manage a house. And how to best manage a house for someone with cerebral palsy is like, you have to like literally schedule your day and say, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and then eventually just stop, because
Mm-hmm.
if you overwork yourself, you get in a position where you can't do anything at all. And then that's
Exactly.
worse. And then that's worse, right? And so
Yep.
I'm learning
So
how to pace myself in the sense
so I'm sorry. Go ahead. In a sense, what?
in the sense that I don't want to overwork myself to where I can't get anything done, right? And
Right.
so, yeah,
Josh said the raising of the chair is really handy in a store. That and expect being able to get something off the top shelf. Can you grab that for me? I can't quite reach it. I am tall. I can reach it, and I go back down. And
yeah,
but that's cool. The one thing that I want to ask you, and I don't remember if I asked this um, the last episode or not, but if I did, it's okay. We'll go through it. How hard is it living? Okay, alone. I couldn't do the alone thing. I would go nuts.
Well, I realized that I didn't know that I enjoyed it, because this is the first time in my life that I've lived alone. Like, I've always had a roommate, or I've always had somebody living with me, right? And I've realized how I like the peace and quiet. I like the ability to kind of just do what I want in the way that I want to do it. And you do have to prepare for an incident, maybe where, if you fall out of your chair or whatever. And what I've learned is that I have to be very strategic in how I do things so that I don't put myself in a position where I'm injuring myself or maybe need help and there's nobody around. Right.
Right.
So I'm very, very careful about that. I've now lived on my own literally almost 2 years, well, a year and a half now, since I don't have any roommates or anybody living with me. And I really enjoy sort of that extra level of independence. And sometimes, I do get outside and I'll go to a movie or whatever. I'll go talk to my neighbors and I'll roll around and just, have fun with people. But as far as when I come home, it's basically my space. And, I really don't like anybody in my space necessarily. And people have made the comment, well, you need to make it more able-bodied friendly, because right now I don't have any couches and I have just open space, right? And so and when I moved into my house, I gave them away because somebody really needed them. So I gave them away, and I said, you know what? I've lived in my apartment for 5 years, and I never once used those couches. They were for somebody else. So I decided that I'll buy a chair, a nice recliner when I'm good and ready, right? So I'm still trying to figure that out and trying to figure out what I'm going to do there. But I've never realized how much I enjoyed living alone, and maybe it's not for everybody, but I guess I like to sing and stuff too, which is something that most people really don't know. But my neighbor caught me outside. It was like it just kind of bolted out a few tunes, and she's like, "Well, we didn't know you sang," and then in Spanish either. So that was kind of interesting, and it was just something that for me, it's something that I do for me at home, and not having people around, I guess, kind of gives me the freedom to, as we do sometimes, we sing in the shower and nobody can hear our bad tunes, right? So I don't know. For me, it's fun. You have to kind of you make moments for yourself to just enjoy that environment that you build, or that you're creating and building your home.
Is it tough though? I mean, I guess beside that, and I get where you're coming from to have your space and everything like that. I mean, talking about music, to be able to do the CD that I've done and put it out, and to work with Steve to do that and get it all over everywhere and all over all the platforms and Amazon and all that stuff. It took camaraderie with us and us working together to get that out there. I would miss the camaraderie of having someone to talk to in a space where I'm going, hello, whoa, low, low. There's no one here.
Well, the way that I mitigate that is, I have a lot of friends, and I frequent a grocery store here in Kansas City called Hy-Vee. There's one up in the Northland, and I know everybody that works at that Hy-Vee. So when I go to the Hy-Vee, it's like, to go grocery shopping, I'm also going there to say hello to my friends, and I might, sit at the market grill and talk to people, and I'll be there for 2 or 3 hours just hanging out, talking to people. And one of the ladies is a retired school teacher, and so she works the the counter and works the bar and that kind of thing. And so we talk about different things and what's going on in the neighborhood and what people are doing and that sort of thing. So putting yourself in an environment where you can interact with people on a daily basis when you live alone is an important thing to do. Like, if you go to the gym, you have the friends that you go to the gym with, and you go to the bowling alley, and you take a few friends with you, or maybe you strike up a conversation with somebody at a bowling alley and just have a good time. I joined several social groups. So what I do when I have time is I will make sure that once a week I socialize with people. Like, yes, I stay home, but I keep to myself, but once a week I make opportunities to socialize with people.
Do you ever feel lonely? I mean, in your house, like
I feel lonely, but in a different way, because I guess in the way that as a person with a disability, sometimes you're trying to explain something to somebody and they don't quite understand because where you're coming from because of your disability. So I don't necessarily feel lonely in the sense like as an individual, but more lonely in the sense that like sometimes is it just me dealing with my disability. So I really appreciated your album in the sense that because like that Lonely Cowboy, like when I listened to that, I was like, okay, so I took it kind of in a different context. It's like, well, sometimes you're dealing with your disability, you're trying to overcome your challenges, and you feel like that that lonely cowboy, that lonely cowgirl dealing with that. And so one of the things that I like about not only the show, but the things that you're doing as well is that it gives me the opportunity to realize that I'm not alone and that we can collaborate together and we can figure out, what these challenges really, really mean to us and how they affect us. So,
I mean, life is full of challenges, and that's the truth. I mean, you're gonna face, the moderate challenges. You're gonna face the big challenges. You're gonna face the small ones. But and I've noticed, I guess, in my 40 years is I used to, when something used to happen, I used to freak out. My first thing used to be, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And it used to be this big thing. And now I'm like, okay, all right, that broke. I'll give you an example. Last week.
But one of the things that I've been asking myself recently as I live alone, and I've lived alone now for almost a year and a half, is, what makes me happy, and how is it that, I can go to work and do the things that make me happy. And then, of course, just answering that question, right? Making sure that I'm able to, create opportunities for myself to be happy and to enjoy life. And so that's one of the things that I try to focus on a daily basis is try to focus on what I enjoy. And some of the things that I want to learn to do, like go fishing, is one of the things on my, bucket list that I want to learn to do. I've never really done it. And so looking for those opportunities to kind of expand on the things that I haven't yet done. I mean, I've bought a home, I've had a successful career, I've done all of those things, but there are some, like recreational activities that I have yet to do. So I'm looking forward to having the opportunity to doing some of those things as well.
Well, one of the things I was saying is, like, for instance, last week we were, our upstairs had a leak and the pipe was dripping. And I get up, and the first thing I've got to do when I get up is go to the bathroom. So I'm like, all right, got to get up, got to get in my chair, got to get dressed, got to go to the bathroom. When I go in the bathroom, and Marshall goes, oh my God, there's water in the light. I'm like, what? So we look down and we look up, and there's this big shade to the light cover. Well, it's full of water. And so I get to the bathroom threshold, and a second before I get in the bathroom to go to the bathroom, the light fixture falls and shatters into 1,000 pieces. And I'm like, okay, got to hold it. So
wow.
So now you got to hold it. You got to get the broom. You got to mop the stuff up. You got to, and then the maintenance guy's coming in there. And I finally had to tell him, I'm like, look, I have to go. Can you please leave long enough for me to do what I have to do and come back? And he's like, you have to go. I'm like, I have to poop. He's like, oh, let me go. So
Right.
It was that moment of, I've got to go right now. If you don't leave, you're going to smell something you don't like. So he leaves, and then he comes back, and he's like, good Lord, man, what'd you do? Oh, my, I said, I told you I had to go, But you get those unexpected things that you're not necessarily prepared for. But in my instance, having a roommate or having somebody to help I was grateful for, because I could have handled it by myself, but I don't know. It just
I have the challenge that I can't just allow a random person to help me. Like I have to trust you in order for me to allow you to help me. And it's one of those things where until I build that trust with you, I'm not even going to ask you to pick up a napkin for me. And if I can work a way around, maybe I'll just leave the napkin on the floor. Maybe I don't really need it, type of thing. Because really, for me, asking for help is a point of vulnerability where so I have to be comfortable making myself vulnerable. I guess
here's another way to look at that. I see where you're coming from. But see, you have a great personality. You're a kind person, and I'll tell you like this: trust is hard. Okay, we have a disability on top of everything else. Okay, so the forefront of, we don't just deal with picking up the napkin. We deal with bending over, trying to pick up the napkin, trying not to fall on her. Okay, so that's what we deal with.
Right? Exactly.
Disability goes, oh, gravity, and then you're like, oh, great, I went to pick up the napkin and landed on my face, and then everybody freaks out when a disabled person falls, and they go, oh my God, and 12 people want to come running over and make it a spectacle, and I feel like I have a microphone going, DJ has now fallen. There's number 13. There's number 14. Oh, here comes Dave over here now. So here's the thing about trust. I have to cold sell my CD.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
I had 145 of them when I got them. I go up to people I don't know, never seen before. Hey, how you doing? Hi. What kind of music you listen to? I don't. Do you have a DVD player, PS4? Yeah. Are you a gamer? Yeah, I actually am. I just made this, So there's a bridge that you have to cross when it comes to trust, and I've learned that people can be trusting, and it can come to bite you in the butt, or it can give you a chance to make a friend that you never knew you would make. And if you don't take a chance to get to know somebody, you don't know what God has for you in that opportunity. So I'm outgoing and super, I'll talk to anybody. I don't care if you got horns sticking out of your head and a tail, and you're just like, I'm like, hi. And then,
living in my home, I'm learning to interact with my neighbors and get to know them, and that's something that being an apartment dweller is very different, because you really don't get to know your neighbors very well, because they come and go, right? And so for the first time in my life, I'm in a situation where this is my home. I'm going to be here a while, so I'm learning to get to know my neighbors, and that's been a wonderful experience for me. And I realized one day that my neighbors are watching out for me. They're protecting me, and I didn't even know they were doing it. It was just like, I had another friend come up to the door and they said, hey, what are you doing here? And why are you here? Type of thing, sort of like interrogating him before he got to the door as he was walking up the driveway. And I said, you know what? My neighbors are just watching out for me, because the neighborhood is not like a real safe neighborhood, but it is safe, but it's not, it's not like living, I guess, in the suburbs type of thing. You're in the center of the city. It's very different than living in the suburbs. You're downtown, so you do have to kind of be watchful of the people that are coming and going. So I appreciate my neighbors for keeping me safe and watching out for me. And it's been a learning experience for me to interact with my neighbors too, to know that they're there for me. We can be there for each other, and so it's a learning experience. Still,
there is that, and I've had those odd experiences where I'll talk to somebody and I'll go, okay, moving on, because you just know. I mean, but see, being a radio personality, being on the air, our voice is the most important thing that we have, and using that, and what I'm noticing here, and I'm kind of glad we're talking about it. I don't want to tell you how to be. Okay, that's not what I'm trying to do.
Right, exactly.
I don't want to say, Tony, you should, because that's not what I'm trying to do. What I don't want you to do is turn inward on something that may be a great opportunity, because maybe that person is looking for a friend too. Maybe that person has had a bad day, and maybe your experience of, would you mind picking up that napkin? It has floated down to an area where I can't quite reach it, and I don't want to stab it to death with my fork because I'm eating my chicken. And he had a chance to laugh, or she has a chance to laugh, and it's a moment where you see, us with disabilities, we have to learn how to break barriers. Because the only way people are going to prepare for us is to accept us and to realize that we are as normal as we're going to be in our own normalcy.
Well, I mean, I will say this. I think for me, I guess I was just spoiled, and maybe I was fortunate that I had a partner that, when we were together, I could rely on this person to do things for me that no one else could, and he had a way of helping me in a way that I didn't even know how to help myself sometimes. And so I kind of got spoiled, over the last few years, in the sense that, I didn't need to have people in my life, because I had this person that was kind of my go-to, like behind every great person, there's, another great woman or another great person behind them, doing some of these things for them. And so, and when you lose that, you also have to learn, like, okay, now how do I live my life now going forward, right? And and I say the reason why I'm kind of, I guess, keeping to myself and sheltered is mainly because because I did have a wonderful opportunity to be with someone that like literally knew what I needed before I knew I needed it. And so it was one of those situations where I think I'm still learning kind of how to be single again. And so
And here's the thing, you just mentioned it, and thank you to the new subscriber 104. I really appreciate you being here. Um, Again, we're broadcasting on YouTube too, so I just got a new subscriber in saying hey. But I want to say this, in school we learn our math, we learn to read, we learn to write, we also learn to communicate, we also learn to talk, we also learn to trust. And I didn't think the show was going to go down this route, and I'm going, okay, now we're hitting the, at 30 minutes and 37 seconds, we're kind of getting into the issue of what are we really dealing with in doing a show like this. See, to me, and we've talked several times, you've got more words in you to where I'm like, whoa, bring it back a little bit.
right.
Where you're it's very frightening, and for you sometimes for a conversation, and I don't see that in you. And the thing about it is, we have to learn to, as Miss Wilson always says, do things in fear, because you can't let fear control you. I'm not saying that you do, but I know that there's that, I guess, the apprehensiveness of
Right.
of do I say something to this person or do I not? Okay,
Yeah.
they're wearing khakis and a plaid shirt. I don't know.
I'm just very cautious also because, and it has to do with how, in my younger years, being disabled was kind of a bad thing. And, my parents didn't know how to deal with it. And so the way that they dealt with it is that, well, when people came over, they'd say, okay, well, time to go to your room and hide, because they didn't want people to see me. And then they had to talk about the disability and talk about me and talk about, how difficult it was for them possibly to deal with it. Right. And so part of it was, so I've always kind of grown up with this sense that, the disability is a bad thing. But as I've gotten older, I realized that being visible and being out there and interacting with the community, interacting with people is a good thing, because an opportunity for accessibility came about because I was present and in the moment when it comes to accessibility, and I happened to be at the right place at the right time. And so
And there's something you said right there, Tony, and you brought it up, and again, I was waiting for it because I knew it had to happen. Timing. You and I have talked a lot about, and every guest that I have, they have a story in them. Okay, we don't know the way the story is going to go. We don't know where the story is going to come from. I didn't plan to talk about this right here because I don't set up index cards and go, today we're going to talk about this because it needs to be said. Okay, and an idea is, and as there was a time when we were isolated, when we were forgotten, when we were shoved in a room, and you stay back there because I don't want them to know about you. Okay, now this is Tony out loud. This is Tony alive.
right.
This is Tony being wheelchair frogging. Well, you think about wheelchair frogger, right? You say, I'm just wheelchair frogging, getting it done. It's the same way with communicating. And when all you have to do is be Tony. And once that first word comes out and they go, oh, okay. It's awkward only when it's made that way.
Right.
You're not wearing a shirt that says, I have a disability.
No.
Okay? But people can see your chair. Now they may go, the hell is that? And you go, it's a wheelchair, want to ride? And they go, what?
Well, I mean, I've learned that it's really, really important to just be out there in the community. And I say, play wheelchair frogger, because you don't really know what you're going to encounter. You don't know if you're going to encounter a pothole or if somebody's going to come and try to run you over. So you got to be careful. And as you're rolling through traffic and whatnot. And so last week I went to an event. It was a business networking event, and we realized, hey, this particular business does not have accessibility to the patio. And so then we struck up a conversation about how do we make sure that these establishments are accessible, and how do we educate the business community on how important that is for us, because we didn't know that it wasn't accessible out on the patio. it was accessible as a business on the inside, but not on the outside. And so definitely there's always opportunity to sort of, use a situation that might not be good for good. In other words, you take a negative situation and you flip it around and you try to, instead of be angry about it, find ways to fix it, find ways to make it better.
Well, even in that moment right there, if you had waited, and you let that apprehensiveness, or you let that fear, or you let that, I'm not going to say anything because I don't trust this person. If you had not, you would have been in the same position that you were in for not saying anything. That's why, and for me, see, going back, and we're both kind of talking about the same thing. Fear used to control me to the point where I wouldn't do anything because I was afraid of it. All right. Now I'm a little ball of muscle that it doesn't matter the situation. I'm going to bowl through it. And that's me now. I have that outgoing personality. But when you have that cautiousness, there's nothing wrong with that. But you don't want to overplay it and be too cautious, right? Because too cautious, the light's going to turn red and you have to stop anyway. You see? So you have all of these opportunities every day that you go, because you did something that I wouldn't have done. When you told me about it not being, and then meeting the person and, hey, we're gonna do this at another event because we have it better, this, that, and the other. Well, I wish you would have told me that because I live right around the corner from there, blah blah blah. And the interaction came out to be, be prepared for people with disabilities. People don't prepare for us because I think in their minds, when your legs work and your body works in a quote unquote normal way, they don't have to prepare for it. They don't think about it because unless it happens to them, you can't live through it. Unless you go through it, you can't realize what it's like to have it. So now the person sees the struggle and they see it as a struggle and they go, man, I should have prepared better for this.
Well, one of the things I decided long ago is that I was going to be as present as possibly, or as present as I can possibly be in any situation, whether that be, going to church, going to a restaurant, hanging out with my friends, going to the movies, to be fearless in the sense that, no matter what's going on in the outside world, if it's not accessible to you, be present, because that's how we're going to make it accessible. Every time that we show up, every time that we say, hey, we have a problem here, we need to fix this. And then sort of, and not so much discuss the disability, but I tell people all the time, I want that human experience. And in order for me to get the full human experience, I have to have access.
Okay, good, great. Now, if you take that same zeal and you take it with trust and talking to people, your life is going to change forever, because what you've done is you've taken that one platform and went, I want that human experience. Okay, human experiences come with trust.
Yeah,
and trust comes with human experience. So turning it around is, and this is why. This is what my show's about right here. This is the piece that you have something that I didn't have. You want to be involved in all of that. Me, I'm just like, if I'm there, I'm there. I'm not, I'm not. And that's not a bad way to be. No. It's just, we each have our own little quirks that make us who we are. Okay. But you wanting the human experience is not just being there. The human experience is interacting and being there.
I mean, I went to Disney in 2017, and before I went there, I was afraid that it wasn't going to be accessible. And what I learned, for me, was that it was magically accessible. And I was like, well, hey, how come my city can't be like this, where I can just jump on a Jeep and go on safari, kind of thing. Well, I mean, and I know it's kind of out there, but what I'm saying is that with all these things that we have in our worlds, in our lives, if we make them as accessible as possible, eventually you don't notice that you're in a wheelchair, because you can just roll in, or you can just go to that establishment and sort of have that, right? And so but I enjoyed Disney in the sense that I didn't have to worry about what I was doing or whether it was going to be accessible, other than just having fun and enjoying that. That's what I love the most about it, right? And so So when I came back from Disney in 2017, I was like, so how can I, sort of make Kansas City or make my city
Apply
that there, and so I keep pushing, for little things like, we need, concrete platforms, so when you're riding the bus they can drop the ramp on a concrete platform and you can roll up the bus safely, and especially when it snows and those types of things. And so
but you said something that I want to point out. You said, I know that's a little bit out there. The only things that are out there are the things you don't reach for.
Right.
I want you to think about that. Your voice speaks things into existence. I know that's kind of out there, but nothing that you do that you have a hunger for is out there. Wanting to change and make your city better, wanting to change and making your world better, wanting to change and making your sidewalks, your yard, your flower bed, your flower pots, your bathrooms, everything around your community, everything around your neighborhood, wanting to make it better is where the dream starts. Applying it and starting to do it and starting to get those level platforms. Sidewalks kill people. Sidewalks will destroy a person in a chair. A wheel will pop off. You'll be stuck kind of tinker toying there. I've had a wheel fly off and all that stuff, all because the sidewalk is slanted, going up one way, down the other. It's like you're on a speedway trying to drive a car through turn 2, and you can't get up enough speed to go up the bank.
And I take the road most of the time because the road is more level than the sidewalk, and I honestly prefer the shoulder sometimes because it is smoother and I can roll faster, and maybe if an area is safe enough I can do that, I will do that versus take the sidewalk. I love the bike lanes. I if I have them available, I will use the bike lane first. And that's basically how I approach it. So I weave in between bike lanes and sidewalks all the time as a way of sort of using the sidewalk less because they're not as accessible as they need to be. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit here and be negative about it. Just figure out a way that I can make a difference, a way that I can be the change that I want to see in the world. And I think that it starts with being present. First of all, is knowing that have value in yourself, to know that you're able to be present, and you should be present because you're a part of this world just as everybody else. And so that's something that I struggled with, and I was like, what, I need to stop and say, what, I am valuable enough, I deserve to be included, and I deserve to be a part of the community, so I'm going to do that. And so that's where
the other part of that too is there's nothing wrong with asking for help. Nothing. Everybody needs help sometime. It is not, you're not demeaning yourself. You're not changing yourself. I was in Food Lion yesterday, and I hate when people ask, can I put that on the conveyor belt for you? I had my hands full, okay, because they don't carry the baskets anymore in Food Lion because of COVID restriction. So, and I said, you know what? I don't mind. Go ahead. And she felt like she did something to help me. But you know what was cool about it? After she put them up there and after I paid for everything and they bagged them, she was the one to take those bags and put them on the back of my chair without me having to ask for it because she knew what I needed. Now, 2 years ago, that would have irritated the crap out of me because she didn't ask. Okay. But you realize it's 96 degrees outside. I got 2 places I got to go. I got ice cream to put in the freezer. I want to go home. Okay, the quicker I get my stuff paid for and on the back of my chair, I can go home. Now here's the thing. Here's the point I'm trying to make with that. A lot of people feel like I'm a burden if I ask for help. I used to feel that way. I used to hate, I'm a burden. I'm a burden. I'm a burden. I used to hate it. I am 40 years old, and I realize one thing. If I get a little bit of help in this world with somebody that actually, now listen to this, somebody that actually wants to help me and is not doing it for pity because they feel bad, I'll be okay. But then there's the other side. When they do it for pity, and I go over to them And I say, I really appreciate you doing that, but I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. That's the thing about life. People are going to do things for different reasons. And they may think they're doing something good in their own way. And in their own way, they are. But when you bridge the gap and you say, I appreciate you doing that for me, but you don't have to feel bad because I'm going to be all right. Then they can lift their head up and say, you know what? I didn't think about it that way. I saw it as it was hard for you. Life is hard. We're going to have those moments where we go through, man, nothing's going right today. Can I get one thing to go right? One thing. One. And then we get that one thing to go right, and we're not thankful for it. So right. You have something that and I've said this before, and I don't know if you caught it. You may have. You have something about you that kind of, I'm going, man, I wish I had that, because I don't. You have a spontaneity for a spark of a conversation. You'll go into something, you'll text me, I'm like,
yeah,
scroll. And you say, I know my friends tell me I should be a writer, But see, here's the thing. If you're that way to someone and they connect, imagine what you have before you even had a chance to trust them. Because the connection is already there. You have a chance every day to make a connection. You have a chance every day to make a connection somewhere. You can be talking to a bird on a sidewalk. That bird flies to a tree on a branch. That branch breaks and falls down and stops somebody else from walking, and they look up at you and go, "Did you see what that bird just did?" You go, "Yeah, I did see it."
Yep.
Bam. That's your connection.
Yeah.
But if you miss it, if you miss the connection because something inside you says, I don't trust this person, I ain't saying nothing. Now, there are some people where you just have a sign where your aura is like, And I get that.
Right.
There are those people that I will roll over and stay away from. But if you judge them before you know them, and you don't talk to them and give them a chance, there's so many people that are waiting for a hi and a hello and a how was your day. Now, I'm not saying I want to be Dr. Phil and go, what the heck is wrong with you?
Right.
What are you thinking?
Well, I think we all make, sometimes, judgments without realizing we do them, just sort of automatically. And so it is difficult sometimes, and it's difficult, for us as people with disabilities, though, to sometimes realize that it's okay to stop and say hello, or to, I'm always kind of guarded, but also I'm also, I'm a very open person. Once I start a conversation with somebody, and I can talk all day long, but it just takes that, kind of that connection or that spark, right, to kind of move things along, for me. But it is challenging because, and living alone for me is something that, I wanted to learn how to do that and do it successfully, just to prove to myself that I am fully capable 100% of doing the things that I need to do. And I'm learning that sometimes, as much as I want to do it myself, I can't. So I got to call somebody, right? And so I'm building my network of people that I can call upon and say, I need help with this. But I schedule it in such a way that, it's convenient for both parties, like it's convenient for me, it's convenient for them, and it works. Right. And so going back to
this, because I'm going to ask you a question and I want to see what your reaction is, totally off the cuff. Right.
Right.
You talk about trust, and you talk about, kind of being that, inward just a little bit until you make that connection. What made you trust me? What made you decide to talk to me?
I guess there was just some kind of a spark there, just some kind of right. I just kind of felt like you'd be a person that I could talk to. Maybe just the way that you spoke, the way that you were mannered, and the way that you approach things. And I had seen your show before, and I'm like, I can probably sit down and have a conversation. Looks like a safe person I can have a conversation with, right? So obviously, I was kind of sometimes I do my research a little bit, kind of look at the situation and kind of assess and say, does this seem safe? And sometimes I make mistakes, right? Where you think that you can trust a person and then it goes the other direction. So, but like you said, you do have to give yourself opportunities to make connections with people, because you're going to miss that connection, and you might miss a connection that might be important to you later on in life. And you may not know when or how or why, but and so I really do believe that can be important. And so sometimes we just have to be prepared, I guess, to
the only chances that you're going to miss are the ones you don't take. See, and you have this ability to go places and to go to different events and to shine because you want to get things done. And it's that inner spark of, I want to change this, but I want to change this because it needs to be done not just for me, but for other people like me. And that's what makes you so sparkish. That's why you're like a Pikachu in a chair. You're just like,
that's a good description right there. Oh my goodness.
I mean, you're just shocking the crap out of people in a good way, because it's like, Pikachu spark, Pikachu spark, Pikachu spark, and it's just going everywhere. And they're going, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. I didn't.
But I spent a lot of time, though. I spent a lot of time as a kid trying to figure out ways to change my environment, because as a kid, I didn't have access to the city. I didn't have access to paratransit. I didn't have access to a lot of the things I have access to now. So in my hometown of Edinburgh, Texas, we still don't have accessible cabs or accessibility to the level that we have in Kansas City. So when I go back home to visit my family, I feel disabled again because I can't get outside. I can't roll around. And so, part of it is I've spent years putting myself in a position where I can live an independent life as much as possible. So I've also was very strategic in that sense, in that I was building an environment that worked for me, and I'm still building that environment with my house. We talked about the yard, we talked about that accessibility. So it's about building that environment that works for you. At the end of the day.
But it's not just that environment, Tony. It's your environment.
Exactly.
Never forget that, because when you started this journey the year and a half ago, when we were talking about it, and I saw the pictures, I saw the look on your face of, this is mine. This is I can work on it now the way I want it to be. I can have handrails in my closet to pull myself forward. I didn't think about that. I'm like, man, that is a dang good idea. I can't reach. Jack, grab a handrail here, grab a handrail here, reach forward, hold on, not fall on you, and grab the can of soup, pick it back up, put it in the microwave.
Yep. I have handrails in my pantry, and people come and they look at my pantry and go, I've never seen handrails in a pantry before. I'm like, because that's something that works for me, right? To pick up a can.
We look at this world, and you have to almost ask yourself this question: what can I do to make my part of the world convenient for me? And that is a legit question. Man, this hour has went by fast. We talked about a lot just in I think we've scratched more in the surface of you this hour than so much the I gotta. We got down to the what makes Tony tick, and what makes Tony work, what makes Tony think, how does Tony act in this situation. And people are going to see that, and they're going to go, maybe I can do that. Maybe I can trust a little bit more. Maybe I can go out and open my mouth a little bit. Because once you open it, sometimes it's hard to get it to stop. That's why I got 101 shows. But in the same, I asked you, I said at the beginning of this before we went on the air, I said, man, I'm struggling. My audience is not there. How do I make it better? How do I make it bigger? How do I make it? And it takes one thing, one story, one spark, one little itty bitty motivational thing, and somebody goes, I'm new. This is my first time here. I like what you're doing. And I'm going, there it is.
It's those nuggets of information. It's those nuggets of information I've gotten from other guests too that make this program so wonderful, because, I learned from previous guests and previous shows. I sit there and take notes about, how people handle things, because, we all need a little bit of advice, but you're not going to walk up to every single person you meet and say, hey, can I get some advice? But listening to the show and picking out those nuggets of information is great, and so that's what I appreciate.
Would you mind, would you mind sharing a little bit about, because I asked you, what does the show mean to you? Would you mind sharing a little bit about your journal with your show journal? Can you talk a little bit about that with the time we got left?
Well, for me, the journal, when I watch the show, is I look for things that I can, sort of plant into my life, sort of like nuggets of information that I can use to improve my situation, or maybe they present something that I never thought of, like the handrails in a pantry, for example, to get stuff out of a pantry. And so sometimes I look for those little nuggets of information that are inspirational and useful to remind me that I'm not alone in this fight. I'm not alone in this battle, trying to, overcome my disability or manage my disability. So a lot of times it's about, learning how to manage the disability instead of saying, oh, woe is me, I have this disability and I can't do this, and I can't do that, but learning how to successfully manage it. So when I look at the show and I go, okay, so they're going to present me with some information that I might be able to utilize to manage my disability.
Awesome.
We talked about, the leg rest one time, and the little sling that goes, on the leg rest so that your feet don't get caught under the wheels. And I sent you that link with, so those types of things like that. Like, okay, so this is how you don't get your legs caught in the wheels.
Yeah. Well, guys, I hate to do it, but I mean, we got about 3 minutes left, and I want to make sure that you guys know, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can email me, mycpdoesnotdefineme@yahoo.com. You can catch me on YouTube, MyCP Does Not Define Me, Chairmaster Games, and Worth the Wait Cooking with DJ Carter. You can catch me on Twitter, MyCP Does Not Define Me @Minion Sports, my blog, CarterDJ85 @wixsite.com. And you can catch my new CD available everywhere on every platform. My Chair, capital N, capital C. It's available on Spotify. It's available on YouTube Music. Available on Pandora, Apple, Amazon. It is available by me. All of the links to the CD and where to get it and the website are in the description. So please stream it, buy it. Let me know what you think. And let me know what you like, because the more you buy, the more I can make. And I always say, if you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it. This is D to the J with the Rollaway, saying we'll see you next Wednesday for episode 102 of My CP Does Not Define Me.
All right, everybody. That's going to do it for this week's episode of My CP Does Not Define Me. As always, you can catch us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on the Disability Global Broadcast and Facebook Live. If you haven't already checked out our YouTube channel, My CP Does Not Define Me, we post all of the show videos in our My CP playlist. I'm your host, D to the J with the Rollaway. And if you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it. We'll see you next week.